interrupted my
That's a contradiction,
my train of thought about that. I just want to stress that, what I want to say is that in the psychological and philosophical analysis of language, this enormously central role of paraphrase is often not paid enough attention to. And that is really a critical thing, to have in any analysis of language capability an understanding of paraphrase. And so what is wonderful is to get down to cases here with what Dan's now doing with it, to get a much more detailed feeling. And what is amusing about it, this is my final remark, we're running this elementary language arts course for like 3rd grade students, 5th grade students, right alongside the mathematics course. Of course, from a computational standpoint, evaluating the mathematical exercises is utterly trivial. What is really hard is evaluating the writing of 3rd graders. Already at the level of 3rd grade writing, where the vocabulary is restricted, we face, as Harvey would agree, I'll force him to agree with this, computational explosion. And so it turns out to be the real task is to understand 3rd grade writing. The final point is, in this country, for a variety of reasons that I'm not trying to go into, but as a fact of life, teachers have signed off on evaluating what they used to do in the past, of marking each sentence that students write. A few good teachers still do it, but you can see why. If you have 30 students and they're each writing 10 sentences a day, that's a lot of homework. It's really a difficult task. It's exactly the right task for smart computers, but those computers must be smart. And Dan is showing it. We're making progress on making them ever smarter. Paul, on your own.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think that your experimental approach is exemplary, right? And this rewriting rules is pragmatic, okay, but it's a little bit ad hoc, and it doesn't scale very well, and it would be nice to have something more principled. And I think that the rewriting approach for the paragraphs is going to lead you into something of a quagmire.
Might be right. I disagree about the scalability. We are using the same machinery here that we have used for machine translation systems, most recently between Norwegian and English. And we scaled up to about 60 to 70% of the translation of real-world texts, using admittedly hundreds of such equivalence rules. Of course, across languages, you have to do a lot more substitution. There's a lot more work to do. But the amount of human labor required is in the right shape. That is, you can, with a modest amount of labor, capture the vast majority of what you see, and then there's a very long tail. But in this business, we benefit from doing 90% of the work. We achieve a great amount of educational benefit with a modest amount of labor, even though in the limit, you're right that it's an extremely long, difficult problem. But I think you're right that it's going to become more challenging once we move to the paragraph level.
But you've wandered off into semantics. The translation problem between English and Norwegian is largely a syntactic problem.
No, it is largely a semantic problem.
No, well, okay.
We'll take that offline.
Okay, but you can't tell whether something in Norwegian, a Norwegian sentence says the same thing as an English sentence. That you can't do.
I'm defining congruence rules that declare what equivalences exist. That's the point. But it's hard work. Yeah. One more question, Michael. No, sorry. Yes.
This is your attention is on paraphrasing or hard or soft equivalences here. One of the things that a person has to become sensitive to as he learns to write is the distinctions that can be generated by placing parts of, altering the order of words. For example, take the word only and consider the differences in meaning you get from placing it in different parts of a sentence. I pointed this out to one of my classes in logic years ago, and the next day I came into the room to find written on the blackboard, problem for Professor Lewis. Take the sentence. She told me that she loved me. And put the word only in every possible position.
The word only is one of those words that we very carefully control against when we're giving them candidate words to supply. We have enormous control over the way in which we shape the difficulty of the problem for ourselves.
Yes.
And so that one we will defer probably to some later state of the course. It's a nice point, yeah.